Hi everybody, today is Sunday, February 16th. It's been probably about 3 weeks since we've last updated you. Obviously, we're still here in China, but we did have a moment of panic.
We considered the option of, Ashley going back to the United States. And in fact, Ashley's mom got a ticket as well, a plane ticket. We realized that maybe going back would be a little more risky because getting on a plane and interacting with all those people, with Ashley being pregnant, we didn't really think that would be worth it. So we've been self-quarantining here in our apartment.
I think it was the day the World Health Organization declared it an international emergency, and a lot of other countries decided they were going to stop flying to China. So we're like, oh my God, we need to leave. Because what if the whole country shut down? We can still leave. I know there's been teachers that have come back to China. They had to do crazy amounts of layovers to get here. So we could theoretically leave. It would just be a huge hassle. And I think now we feel very secure in our choice to stay. And I haven't even thought about it again since. But just that day when all the airlines decided they weren't going to fly to China anymore, I know we were both like on edge. But we've come to terms with our decision. Have you been keeping up with the news?
Yeah, well, hopefully, according to Trump, hopefully this thing will die out in April.
Now the virus that we're talking about having to do, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in.
That's rather hopeful. I'm not sure quite where he's getting his sources. I think obviously this disease has impacted more people than SARS did, but I think people are also hoping that it'll play out like SARS, where it ends in May or June.
Yeah, when the warmer months come about.
But we really don't. Now, I think the good news is I think when the coronavirus first started, now it's called the Covid-19. When it first started, we were just watching news all the time. That's all we could think about, news. Whereas now, I'll check the numbers maybe once a day. But I think I have other things on my mind now. But there are some news for Beijing. We're both in WeChat groups to help us stay informed on important things about the coronavirus for those of us that are still living in China. I read the Beijinger. We're both in the Safe and Sane in Beijing groups. And let's see, what's the latest news?
Latest news is that anybody who comes back to Beijing from overseas has to do a 14-day
Not even
quarantine.
Overseas, just anywhere.
Oh, from anywhere, okay.
If you travel into Beijing, I think they do temperature checks when you arrive to Beijing, but you have to do a mandatory quarantine for 14 days in your apartment. We're not quite sure what that means just yet. That's a brand new law that I think it started yesterday or today. So I think those people, they're allowed to leave their apartment, maybe. But I don't think they're allowed to go to the grocery store. We're not quite sure what it means in English yet.
So our west gate, we have two gates at our apartment, west gate and north gate. And normally we'd go in and out of west gate, but it's actually been shut down now. It's completely closed for pedestrians at least. And so all the traffic is being rerouted through our north gate. And our packages as well are all going to the north gate. Normally, delivery drivers can come into the complex, of course, and come in right to our door. But nowadays, they are not letting any delivery drivers come into the complex just for safety reasons. And I know other complexes as well have been doing temperature checks and checking ID, checking passports, and Chinese identification and this type of thing, just to make sure that you are supposed to be at that apartment.
Yeah, so we live in a suburb of Beijing, so there aren't quite as many people out here, so we're not quite as impacted. I think there's only about 10 people that are infected, but I still think they take precautions. So strangers are not allowed into the complex anymore. You have to have a key card. I think soon, it might depend on the compound, but soon you might have to register every time you leave or come back.
Yeah, when I was at the grocery store the other day, they had me sign in. Like my name and address and telephone number. That was only one time that happened, but normally when I go to the grocery store, there's not any sign-in procedure. Um,
Imagine going grocery shopping and having to sign your name every time.
yeah, I mean,
Well, we do now. That's
the good thing is like everybody, apart from maybe one person, one or two people at most that I see when I'm out in public that might not be wearing a mask, but for the most part, everybody is wearing a
really.
mask.
It's supposed to be. It's also supposed to be a law in China now. Is if you're outdoors, you have to wear a mask. So I'm surprised to hear of anybody not wearing a mask. It could be a new rule, but
Well, I think people, is just my opinion, I think people will look at someone who doesn't have a mask on and look at them with disdain and, like they're not doing what they should be doing for their country to fight this virus. So,
well, same with being in quarantine. There's these giant red banners outside all the complexes everywhere, and I forget what the actual translation, but basically it's considered an act of patriotism to quarantine unless you have to go outside. So if you have to go to work or things like that, then yeah, you can go outside. But only go outside if it's absolutely necessary. And if you do, then you have to wear a mask, because everybody knows, well, it's starting to become a known fact that if I wear a mask, it does. Oops, I just hit my microphone. Sorry. If I wear a mask, then it doesn't protect me, but it will protect you. So it's considered polite to wear a mask to protect other people, because we still don't quite know about the incubation period.
yeah, and so in regards to our school, in regards to work, we've been working online.
Okay, you did number 8 correctly. Let's look at number 9. All right, last one. What is our subject?
Our school is put on hold indefinitely, so there's no time frame. There's speculation about maybe March or April.
I've heard March, I've heard April, I've heard May. Everybody, like, rumors are running wild. Everybody wants to know, when are we going to go back to work?
But the official standpoint by the government is that there's no going back to school, like going back to work anytime soon. So we're going to, when we find out, we'll find out.
When we find out, we'll find out. Yeah, I mean, I consider it a good thing that they're taking precaution with children. So no child in China is going to school at the moment right now. I'm pretty sure all of them are doing e-learning online.
Which is driving people a little bit
bonkers,
a little bit crazy. Yeah, I feel bad for the parents, because the parents have to spend so much time with their kids inside. I feel even worse for teachers, because teachers that have kids, because they're not only teaching online, but they're also taking care of their kids indoors as well. So I can imagine it's quite stressful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's nice because the government did say if your children are home learning, then one parent is allowed to stay home to help take care of those kids, because otherwise it would be a big mess. If kids aren't allowed to go to school, then what should the parents do with them? A lot of people's IEs are still stuck out of town. IE is like a housekeeper or kind of like a nanny. A lot of IEs are still out of town, so things are definitely not back to normal.
Yeah, so like I said before, Ashley and I have been teaching online. So it's come with its struggles, because we're not online teachers, and I find that the content is rather difficult to get across. And plus, we're also not supposed to be teaching anything new. The government has said that there's no new learning, so everything that we do teach is going to be review from the first semester.
It's been kind of tricky because obviously we've never taught online before, so we don't know. Like, I teach grade 3, and we gave way too much content to our kids because we're like, oh, they're learning from home, we have to keep them busy. But we gave them so much work because we just didn't know how long it would take them to do. And of course, the parents have a hard time helping their kids because not all of them speak English. So that's also been a struggle, trying to figure out the right balance, how much work to give the students. Like last week, we did pre-recorded videos and then assignments to go with those videos. Whereas next week, we're going to begin doing live teaching. So we're using Microsoft Teams. I'll be teaching one class a day and then giving an assignment or two to the students that I will then check later.
Yeah, and I'll be doing the same. On Valentine's Day, it was the first day that Ashley has been outside, or been out further from our complex in what?
It's been over 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks. I think the last time was maybe January 26th.
We went down to a restaurant close to us and picked up some Valentine's Day dinner, which we brought home.
Going around with the two people kissing with the masks on.
I know.
I don't even want to reenact that because it's not safe.
No.
Graham wanted to talk about what it's been like with life indoors.
Yeah, we've not been up to too much, playing more video games.
Yep.
I've been learning some stuff about videography and motion graphics.
By now, I'm sure that you've already heard of the coronavirus, or 2019 nCoV. This virus has already spread to many places around the world.
It's not as bad as it seems. I mean, being indoors all the time, we've both picked up on some new hobbies in order to keep ourselves entertained. Like right now, I'm learning Chinese. I've been learning Chinese for about 2 weeks now, and I'm almost done with level 1, which is crazy. I didn't even realize that I just started beginning of February. I exercise pretty much every day unless I'm not feeling too great. Today is the first official day that I'm in my 3rd trimester, and yay! But my back is starting to feel it, so I have to take it day by day and see how I feel. But I'm going to try and keep up the exercise, especially since I don't get my steps in that I normally would.
And this Thursday, we're going to another doctor's appointment.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because it'll be both what it's like for the glucose screening in terms of pregnancy in China, but also what it's like in town. We haven't been in town since probably our last doctor's appointment. So overall, we are still uncertain what the future holds for China, but I know if a lot of people are working from home, and I know this has impacted the service industry, tourism. It'll be interesting to see how this impacts the economy, because I think even during SARS, China wasn't quite the world power that it is currently. So I am a bit anxious, and I'm sure everybody else is as well. But the only thing we can do is wait. But overall, my disposition is still positive. Right?
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I'd like to think that the government is doing everything that it can, and I hope we get over this quickly so we can go back to normal. China Jayo. Okay.
Right.
I think that's it.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.